Good afternoon, everyone. SONA 2026 promised reform, growth, and accountability, but did it go far enough? Today, we're joined by Jan De Villiers from the Democratic Alliance to unpack what government avoided, whether the fiscal path is sustainable, and what a DA-led reform agenda would look like for jobs, energy, and economic growth. How are you, Jan?
Hi, good and yourself, Sid. It's wonderful to be with you today, and good morning or afternoon to the listeners or viewers,
Awesome.
I
It's
should
my
say.
Yeah, awesome. It's my pleasure to have you on the live. And yeah, to get the ball rolling, my first section here with you would be starting with accountability and reform. From a DA perspective, what were the biggest gaps in SONA 2026? What did government avoid addressing?
Okay, so the DA actually had a quite a long list of things we wanted the president to talk about, and Sid, I have to just say, we are quietly optimistic. The president did actually touch on a lot of things. The DA is currently focused on one thing and one thing only, and that is job creation, which means growing the economy. We think that government and government policy and should at all times just be about one thing, and that is the creation of jobs. So you've asked me now what the president missed in his speech. There are two things which we think are really big missed opportunities. The one is black economic empowerment in its current form. I think if you take the emotion out of BEE and the fact that it is put out there as a almost a solution to a post-apartheid South Africa,
Hmm.
you have to judge any policy or any law on its outcomes. And I will put it to you that if you judge BEE, the current BEE laws, or if you want to call it the double B triple E, the outcomes it's producing is it's making a really small group of people really rich, tenderpreneurs, as we like to call them, politically
Yeah.
connected, politically connected individuals, because they can use the current race-based BEE policies to just say, as long as you are black, you qualify for government tenders. But what does that really achieve? How does that help the vast majority of the population who actually does need to be empowered? And why do I say that? I say that because we've got one of the highest unemployment rates in the world. So you can't tell me that BEE is working if you have almost 40% of the country looking for jobs. So what the DA is saying is the president missed an opportunity to say, you know what, we had good intentions with BEE, but it's not working. What the DA has always said is we need to look at empowerment reforms that goes away from race, that looks at the individual that needs to be empowered, and is done in such a way that you empower disempowered individuals, because that really is the test. If you have empowerment laws, they should be focused in such a way that whatever that they do, they should make the people's lives of South Africa better. So if I can make just some examples, if you were to look at the United Nations sustainability goals, or the SDGs as they are called, it's things like building schools, purifying water, looking after the environment, feeding people. There are a lot of these SDGs, these sustainable development goals. If you were to say to corporate South Africa, okay, let's forget about BEE in its current form. Let's rather say that if you do any of these things, if you build a school, if you feed children, if you help fix services, if you plant trees and help the environment, then you are contributing to making South Africa better, and you're contributing to empowerment, real empowerment, and we will give you then points for that, and that will qualify you for government tenders and the works. So what the DA really is saying is, the president has almost doubled down again on BEE, and I think that is a big missed opportunity, because BEE is one of the things in its current format which is throttling the economy, and it's only
Hmm.
helping a few. One of the other things which we feel is half a miss, and I have to say half a miss, is the president spoke tough on crime, and yes, he should be tough on crime, and we support that. He talked about that he wants to bring out the military to come and supplement the work of SAPS, specifically in the Western Cape, in gang ridden areas. So, on the one hand, yes, the DA supports that the military be brought in temporarily just for boots on the ground and to stabilize any violence or help maintain peace. But the reality is that is not a long term solution at all. The army, the military, are there for a completely different function and a very important one. They have to help patrol our borders. They have to secure our borders and outwards of South Africa. They are soldiers. They're not trained to be police officers. They can't open dockets, investigate crimes, connect the evidence across sites. They are, they shoot first and ask questions later. Now,
Mm.
obviously, this is not the type of crime fighting culture which you want in South Africa. So what the DA has been saying all this time is, if you look at federal at countries that have federal systems, they devolve policing powers down to provincial and even to local municipal levels. So I think a example which most people will know from television is, if you look at any American television series, you will see that the cops, the police, they have a sheriff in their town. It's the town's police, or it's the New York City police. They've devolved their policing power so that policing is done at a local level. Now, the DA really supports this idea because if you look at the city of Cape Town, they now have more than enough law enforcement officers to really make a difference for law enforcement in the city of Cape Town. But because they don't have the lawful authority to investigate, to actually put dockets together and take that all the way to the NPA, to the National Prosecuting Agency, so that cases can be formed, because they can't do that. A very
Mm.
good example is they take away illegal guns off the street, but then the person who they take the gun from just gets thrown out of jail and walks the street because he never gets prosecuted. At the moment, 5% of the illegal weapons that is taken away from people in the Western Cape by the Cape Metro law enforcement, 5% of those cases actually lead to a conviction, and that is because the law enforcers, the Metro cops, they don't have the power to build cases. They're not allowed to investigate, present evidence. They can only take away the weapon and arrest the person. So I think I've made that point, but we feel that yes, the military, good short-term measure, but long-term, we need to capacitate the police. We need to give them better investigative powers.
Mm.
We need to root out corruption inside the police, but we need to start looking at devolving policing powers where other levels of government has the capacity to handle it.
Awesome. All right. There's actually a comment question here that's actually really related to what you just mentioned here. It's regarding BEE. This is from Resh Jitan. Hi, Jan. If BEE could be removed, will help 30 plus years into democracy and no progression. Unemployment breeds poverty. More job opportunities need to be created. FDI is what we need for more jobs.
Yes, so FDI refers to foreign direct investment. Yes, this is such an important point, and I'm so glad that this was asked, because what happens with BEE is, I mean, I'm going to make a real example. Starlink wants to come to South Africa. Okay, Starlink has the ability to give internet to people. Doesn't matter where they are in the country, because it's satellite internet. Okay, famously owned by Elon Musk. Because we have BEE rules in South Africa,
Mm.
Elon Musk cannot bring Starlink to South Africa, which will have an incredibly positive effect on our economy, a positive effect on people's lives, because everybody knows that if you have affordable access to the internet, then you can empower yourself. You can have access to everything from seeking jobs to just figuring out how to manage your life. So Elon Musk cannot bring Starlink to South Africa because at the moment, BE law says he has to give away a certain amount, a percentage of his company to black individuals in South Africa, because it's a racial law. It's on race, and we can have a whole different discussion on what does it mean to be black and who's not black. But I mean,
Yeah.
that's a whole different kettle of fish. But the reality is that it is absurd that companies like Starlink cannot come to South Africa and do foreign direct investment, bring overseas capital and overseas money to to stimulate our economy, because they need to give away ownership to a local scam at best, a elite empowerment scheme that just benefits the politically connected.
Yeah, I think she was trying to add into this question, again from Rich Justin, with that corruption within the government should stop and money should be redirected where it's necessary and needed. Yeah, I think you've mentioned that in a nutshell.
Yeah, can I just maybe comment on that as well? It's interesting
Sure.
that the viewer made that comment because one of the things which the DA really supports, which the president did say in his SONA address, is we've always said that if you have a water problem in South Africa, which we do, we've got a water services problem.
Yeah.
Municipalities should be forced, legally forced, to retain, ring fence all water revenue inside the municipality and only be allowed to use that income to fix water infrastructure and maintain water infrastructure. Because what happens at the moment, they put a margin, they make profit from selling water and electricity to users, but then they don't take those profits and that money and reinvest it into water and electricity infrastructure. It gets, let's just say it like it is, it gets stolen most of the time. It gets used for corrupt or fruitful and wasteful expenditure, and that is what we need to stop. We need to stop the ability of municipalities to redirect um, uh, uh, revenue generated by municipal services to just whatever they feel like doing, because often they can't be trusted to do it.
True. All right. What immediate reforms would the DA implement differently if it were leading national government?
So I think we've actually really touched on two important ones. So obviously the DA
But
would change BEE and would devolve policing power. So those are two really important ones. I think one of the things which the DA would really push hard if we could put reform on is to professionalize the state service and really rid all forms of cadre deployment in totality. So why do I say this? It doesn't matter what government service we talk about, whether it's receiving care at a clinic or driving on a road that's got potholes or street lights outside. Any service which the government needs to render to citizens is delivered and managed by people, and those people we call the public service. It's the civil service. It's the government employees. It's the people working for the state. Approximately 1.3 million of them, because its government is, no surprise, it's the biggest employer in the country. But those individuals that work for the government have to be employed, especially at senior level and at director level. They have to be employed be- based on merit because of a skill set. So it cannot be, and this unfortunately is what happens, is everything from director general, which is your top level in the public service, down towards medium and senior levels, have been has been filled by people, civil servants who are politically connected, because that is how corruption works. You need to have somebody, if you're a politician and you want tenders to flow in a certain way, you need people in government where you can give a call and say, hey, we're going to build a bridge and I'd like my cousin to get the bridge. And you can only do that if the people who are working inside the government, the civil servants, are in your pocket. And how do you get them in your pocket? Well, you say you're not going to get a job working for the government, and the government pays quite well. They are some of the top officials have really good salaries and good packages.
Mhm.
You're not going to get this good job if you aren't loyal to me. And that is one of the biggest challenges which we have to overcome in South Africa. The correct term is we need to create a professional civil service, merit based, apolitical, so not connected to any politicians. This is one of the most important reforms which the DA would drive it if tomorrow it got control, or full control of the government. Because if you separate the politicians, myself being a politician, from the civil service, and you create a professional civil service, then you create an environment and a climate where services are delivered without political interference, and where most of the corruption which our country suffers from today is stopped, because those professional merit-based officials become incorruptible because they aren't placed there, they're not beholden to any politicians.
Awesome. How will the DA ensure that SONA commitments are tracked and that ministers are held accountable?
Yes, so luckily, some of the SONA commitments reflected very well and is squarely in the responsibility of some DA ministers. So,
Okay.
so if you remember that the president talked about that Home Affairs has already improved, that Home Affairs is now in more banks than it ever was, and Home Affairs
Yeah.
is now in shopping centers. And he also spoke about that Home Affairs is becoming digital. That soon there will be a what they call Home Affairs at home, where you don't need to go to Home Affairs anymore,
Wow.
using facial and biometric recognition from your own smartphone or computer. The state will be able to link your identity, and you can apply for your passport, or apply for your driver's license, or apply for your ID card from your home, from your phone, which obviously will lead to incredible relief, because people talk about Home Affairs as hell affairs. It's a place where you lose a day of your life to go stand in a queue, and it's always traditionally been a really bad experience. Now, all of those reforms are driven by Minister Leon Schreiber, which is
Yeah.
a DA minister. So, we know that that's when the president talks about it, as from a GNU perspective, that's something that GNU can deliver, because it's being delivered by a DA minister. Same thing with Minister Dean McPherson, who's the Minister of Public Works. The president spoke about the creation of a government property portfolio. And the whole drive behind that is to start using the assets of the state more professionally, stop waste, and also curb some of the ridiculous private leases that are out there, which is also a form of corruption, where inside public works officials have just absolutely bloated rental prices and given out rented buildings from individuals who are enjoying the fruits of taxpayer money at double, triple, or even higher the rental market. So that's a positive, and that's being driven by Minister Dean McPherson. We were very encouraged to also hear that the president spoke about the good outcomes that's being achieved by Minister Siviwe Gwarube, who is our Minister of Basic Education, also a DA minister, and that we've had one of the best matric graduation results in quite some time, but also that there's been 10 billion rand allocated in a department towards ECD, early childhood development, which roughly translates into 24 rand a day more for food and support for children at ECD centers, which we feel is really important. And then lastly, I just want to say, the president acknowledged and that foot and mouth disease is a national crisis.
Yeah.
And this originates from the Minister of Agriculture, John Steenhuisen, who went to Cabinet and asked Cabinet that it must be declared a national disaster. And the reason for that is quite simple, that if something is classified as a national disaster, as the President has now indicated it will be, then you get additional resources and help from government to fight the to fight foot and mouth disease. Minister Steenhuisen as a DA minister, he walked into a department where there was no foot and mouth disease strategy at all. A year later, he's got a professional task team set up, which represents people from different agricultural sectors and stakeholders. They have decided on a plan. They're advising the minister. 2 million vaccinations have already been rolled out. Vaccinations are being procured from Turkey, from Brazil, and importantly, Onderstepoort laboratory has regained the ability to make our own vaccines in South Africa. So there's a plan. It's not an easy crisis to manage, and it
Yeah.
unfortunately does really negatively affect a lot of farmers across South Africa in every province. But there's a plan, and Minister Steenhuisen is following a scientific based program to get us to foot and mouth disease free status, so that we can actually start exporting our meat again, and that we can proudly say that we are foot and mouth disease free.
Awesome. The DA has consistently called for a structural reform and to unlock growth. Did SONA 2026 move decisively enough on labor reform, red tape reduction, and private sector participation?
So no, I think the answer to that question is no. In short, when it comes to labor reform, there are two big things which the DA has consistently said, and which the president did not talk to. Firstly, the labor unions in South Africa have too much power. Their collective ability to influence employers, and employment, is not helping people get jobs. It's not helping
Yeah.
employers. It's not incentivizing businesses to actually hire people. It disincentivizes businesses. It rather you rather want to have as little as possible employees, because the more employees you have, the more susceptible you are to having to deal with these labor unions. It can really paralyze your business, if they mobilize against you. The other thing about labor is, quite frankly, it should be easier to hire and fire somebody in South Africa. We have too tough labor laws that make it really, really difficult for employers to put together the human resources, the personnel component, which is ideal for them for their business. At the moment, business owners would rather sweat the people they have at the moment to the maximum effect than employ a new person, because every new person you employ brings another HR a risk to your company. Because we have such extended and strong labor laws, it is really difficult if you have someone who just doesn't fit into your team, who doesn't align with the culture of your business, and who basically is not contributing to your business. It's really tough to get them to move along to a different business where they will probably be happier, and where they can contribute, and where they will fit into the culture of the other business. So yes, we are still disappointed with that. We need labor reforms, and that really does address the red tape issue as well, because red tape is really bureaucracy. That's when you struggle because you can't get through a government process. And we really feel that the red tape of hiring and firing in South Africa is one of the biggest disincentives to grow your business. I also just want to say that the president, unfortunately, he acknowledged that there is a problem with the small business licensing concept, which they want to bring in. The ANC wants small businesses to register for some absurd business license, which the DA just says that is like the last thing any business needs is another license, another red tape regulation which a small business owner must follow. It's already tough enough to be a small business owner. You
Yeah.
want to spend your time supplying services to people, selling your product, innovating, making your business better. The last thing you want to do as a business is figure out how some new government red tape process is working, some new license which you have to get to your business, which really will not benefit you at all in any significant way. So the president said that they have to relook the business, the small business license or permits. We don't like that language. We'd like the presidents to say, we're going to scrap the idea. It's a stupid idea.
True. What specific pro-growth policies should be fast-tracked this year to meaningfully reduce unemployment?
So, if we want to, as we say in the DA, turbocharge the economy, and that's really what you need to get the unemployment down and to create a economic climate where people get more jobs. I think there's a few things which we have to do, and if you don't mind, some of them we have mentioned, but it's worth mentioning again. We have to get rid of BEE. We have to privatize our harbors and our rail systems, because currently farmers and exporters are landing their goods in harbors, and then it sits there and it literally can't get out of the harbor, and then they lose that opportunity to send that stock or that fruit overseas. And this has been a really big problem for the table grape industry, blueberries, and a lot of other agricultural goods. And obviously, agriculture is one of the biggest industries in the country, and it really sustains hundreds of thousands of jobs. So when any farm or any agricultural business goes through all of the trouble to produce something just for it to get stopped at the ports, that really is a big problem. We need to fix our infrastructure. Now, infrastructure is a lot of things. It's electricity. At
Yeah.
electricity level, it's quite simple. Eskom's got a monopoly. They are the only people currently who can legally produce and sell electricity. That monopoly needs to be broken. Competition creates the environment where we will not only have a stable supply of electricity, but where we will also have the best prices for electricity. Because once you have competition and you don't have a monopoly, then the different players in the market compete against each other to make sure that they can produce electricity at the most efficient way, and then offer it to the consumer at the most competitive price. The president did talk about privatization of the electricity grid, but we'd like to see action on it. So he's talking the right language, and
Yeah.
it is super important for the economy, to grow the economy and for job creation, because no business owner can grow their business if they don't have a steady supply of electricity. And on the other hand, no employee who works at any job can go do that job sufficiently if they can't bath their kids at night, if they can't shower in the morning before they go to work, if they have to run around with candles and flashlights. We need electricity. We need dependable services. We think that as part of that services problem, if we want to fix the economy, we really need to fix municipalities. Municipalities really are the start of government services in all South African lives. If I can put it to you this way, in a more positive light, if we lived in a country where you can be born in any community in South Africa, but because you have the potential to become a medical doctor, you have access to a school that's working, the roads you walk on work. There's public transport for you to use. Your local hospital, clinic works. Your electricity is dependable. If all those things work, then the government has set up the external government environment in such a way that you have an opportunity to do the best for yourself. You can now become a medical doctor because you have access to all the things which don't inhibit you from taking those opportunities, from being the best version of yourself. The opposite happens when we have municipalities that are not functioning. When people can't use roads, have to hide in their homes from crime, don't know when the electricity is going to work, don't have water in their taps, don't know if they can trust their local clinic, their local police. That does the opposite. It destroys their lives. It keeps them from developing their talents, because they're more focused on survival than they are actually on being the best version of themselves. So we really need to fix our municipalities, And one of the things we need to do to fix municipalities is we need to simply start keeping municipal accounting officers or municipal managers, the people running the municipalities, personally liable for fruitful and wasteful expenditure and corrupt expenditure. It cannot be that a municipality fails an audit and you cannot reconcile where the money went, and the person who runs that municipality walks free and is not held personally liable for those losses. So we're saying if you're the CEO of a business in private sector and you lose money for that business in a corrupt or a irresponsible way, you can bet that you're going to go to court and that you will be charged either with fraud or gross mismanagement or theft or whatever is applicable. But there needs to be the same type of accountability in government, and especially at municipal local level, where municipalities in general are failing the people of South Africa.
Yeah, that's true. Does DA believe the fiscal path outlined in SONA 2026 is sustainable, or are we heading towards higher debt and taxes?
Yes, we do believe it is sustainable. And I have to say, turning around this country and this economy, which I think is almost linked as the same thing, it's a little bit like turning an oil tanker. You know, people always talk about you can't turn an oil tanker quickly. You know, it takes a long time to of of a long steady turn to get it to go 180 degrees in the other direction. And that is what we need to do. We feel that the first signs are there that the oil tanker South Africa is turning. And why do I say this? I say this because we've come off the grey list. So the grey list is basically an indication of countries where you can't trust the money flows, and there is suspicion of terrorist money being washed inside your country, and that the financial systems of the country are not trustworthy. Through great work by Treasury and SARS this last year, and by no means through the work of Deputy Minister Ashur Sarupin, who's the Deputy Minister of Finance, who's really focused in on getting us off the grey list. We have complied with all of the Financial Action Task Force requirements, and we've been taken off the grey list. Now, this is a great sign of recovery for our financial services sector and for finance in general in South Africa. Our rand is strengthened. You know, Sid, if you remember a year ago, it was 19 rand. Now it's I
Yeah,
think yesterday it dipped below 16 rand. Now this is
yeah,
amazing. I mean, this is it's a clear sign of more foreign confidence in South Africa. It's a clear signal that from the outside people are looking at South Africa and saying, maybe the oil tanker is turning. We like what we're seeing. And that's also coupled to that you would have seen that there's been more foreign investment into South Africa, and that investment activity and economic activity has started it started up again. And then this is really is one of the big ones. You know, the path we were on as a country economically was, as a lot of economists called it, towards a fiscal cliff. And the fiscal cliff is basically just saying, listen, we as a country are paying so much interest on debt that it's becoming unsustainable. And there's going to become a day, the fiscal cliff day, when we literally can't pay our debtors anymore, when the country cannot pay the interest outstanding on its loans. And we were heading there because government debt was just growing and growing. And just like a credit card or a overdraft facility for a person, the higher that debt becomes, the more the interest component grows, and the more unsustainable it becomes for the individual, or in this case, the country, to pay it back. Um, we've in the last year seen the country debt, stabilize and actually come down a little bit. So this is like you turning the tide in your credit card and saying, I've actually been able to take my credit card so that I owe less on it, and I'm turning the tide in it. I'm paying more of the capital that I own on it back. This is really is a positive sign, and if we can keep driving the government of national unity in this direction and having these economic outcomes, then yes, I think we are on the right path. But Siddha, obviously, this is just a start. Many things must still happen, and we've talked about a lot of these things like ESCOM and harbors and stabilization of municipal services. Um, uh, uh, but those things need to really happen for us to go on a true path of economic growth. But we must also take the wins. We are in a better position than in the GNU. South Africa is in a better position today than it was before the government of national unity, and that I think is a good start.
Of course. Did SONA 2026 go far enough in opening the energy market to private producers and ending load shedding permanently?
Well, I think it went far enough in terms of as far as a speech from the president can go. So the true test is implementation. But
Uh-huh.
I think, Sid, what I would like to say is that the DA found it really concerning that the current Minister of Electricity, Minister Ramakgopa, he looked like he was going to backtrack on the privatization of the grid. And then the president came in SONA and reinforced, no, we will not backtrack. We will privatize the electricity grid, and that we will see that implementation being rolled out, the liberalization of the power grid. So yes, we are happy about that, but the proof will now be in the pudding. We now need to see the minister of electricity actually doing it, and we need to see that the president will hold his words true and keep the minister of electricity accountable for it. So actions will speak louder than words, but at least the right words.
True. What would a DA-led energy policy look like compared to what was announced?
Yeah, so I think we've already touched on this, but it
Oh,
basically it is breaking the monopoly of ESCOM, and
okay.
making sure that private players enter into the market, and that we have a competitive power network. Obviously, something which we did not talk about is we need to mix our energy sources with more sustainable power sources as well. So we need to look at wind and solar power, and alternative forms of clean energy, so that we have a sustainable mix with our current coal and nuclear ability. I think to have the balance between those power sources will be the sustainable way to go into the future.
Yeah, I think you all do that really well in Cape Town, if I'm correct.
Yes, I understand that there's been great strides made by the city of Cape Town under Mayor Jordan Lewis to put out triple Ps, so public-private partnerships, to basically take Cape Town off the grid. So Cape Town is on its way to be self-reliant, and perhaps even feed electricity back towards the national grid to actually sell electricity.
Wow.
Um, and you can only really achieve that by having this mix, because it's not just wind, it's not just solar. It is actually utilizing these big different plants, but also using your residents, giving them the ability to put solar on their roofs and feed that back into your grid. So I think Cape Town will probably serve as an example of how a city in South Africa can become energy independent.
Awesome. Government again committed to fighting corruption. What concrete accountability mechanisms are still missing?
So we touched on the one, which is the holding of municipal accounting officers, so the people running the municipalities, your municipal managers and the CFOs, personally liable for any wasted expenditure or corrupt expenditure inside municipalities, and then just generally, I think the government needs to, if you want to create a more professional state service, and you want to or public service, and you want to stop cadre deployments in its tracks, you need to have a central registry and make sure that, we call it the revolving door policy. When someone is found guilty in one level of government, before they can be disciplined, they just go to another level of government, and there's no central registry at the moment that blacklists that person and stops them from moving to a different department. So we need to strengthen that accountability, and that is being looked at by the Department of Public Service and Administration. We really need to find the millions of ghost employees on the payroll. It's actually not a uniquely South African problem. It's a worldwide problem, but we have vast amounts of ghosts on the South African payroll that shouldn't be there, that should be eliminated, which will actually obviously lead to massive expenditure reduction for government, because all of that money is being siphoned into the pockets of criminals who sit inside the government, and that's money that should be going towards service delivery. So I think if you look at those measures and you create that professional merit-based civil service or public service, which we've talked about, you will go a long way towards rooting out corruption at government level.
That's true. Finally, if the DA is part of cooperative governance structures, how does it balance working with government while still holding it accountable?
I think probably one of the most important questions you've asked today. You can just imagine when the election results came and the ANC, it was clear that the ANC was going to be below 50% and that it was the end of one party rule in South Africa. And we realized that we were going to be the second biggest party in South Africa, or remain the second biggest. We realized two things. We realized, one, there's now a real opportunity for us to go into a coalition government and bring our policies to bear in government, get our hands on some of the levers of power in government, and effect change the way we've always said we wanted to effect change. Because it's easy to say something when you're in the opposition, but now you're in government. Now you have to do it. They say when you're in the opposition, people judge you according to what you say. When you're in government, people judge you according to what you do, and rightfully so. So we had to choose. Are we going to go into government or not? And with any decision, you always have to ask yourself: if I don't or do something, what is the alternative? What alternative will happen? So the alternative for us was we stay in opposition and we hold the government accountable. But what would that have meant? That would have meant that either the EFF or the MK, or a combination of the two, because they are the next biggest parties, would have had to form a
Yeah.
government with the ANC. And that really would have been a doomsday coalition. You would have seen the markets absolutely crash. You would have seen, I remind myself of what happened in the KwaZulu-Natal provincial parliament, or the provincial legislature, at the end of last year, when the MK party tried to have a motion of no confidence in that government, in that coalition of provincial unity which they have there, which is the ANC and the DA and the IFP and the NFP who are together in government. When the MK didn't get their way, they started throwing water jugs and assaulting people, and you saw chaos erupting. Now, I mean, it's the clearest picture for any South African of what would happen if you gave these guys power. They are a party of chaos, and they are a party that will bring that same chaos to government. I mean, their leader Zuma is solely responsible for the 9 wasted years, and took us down this path of economic decline. So in short, that was the decision before the DA. Go stay in opposition and allow the doomsday coalition to break the country, or say, listen, this is what we've told our voters. We want to be in government. Now we have an opportunity to go into government, so we better take it. And now the trick is, to come back to your question, how do you hold, you're not the biggest partner, the DA isn't the biggest, the ANC is the biggest. How do you hold the ANC accountable while at the same time partnering with them and running the government of national unity with them? And that's no easy feat. And but it is
Yeah.
also, of course, a question which worldwide any coalition partner needs to ask before it goes into a coalition. And it's one of the most difficult things, because one of the dangers for the DA is that voters start saying, well, the DA, sure, they really are enjoying those blue lights. They are the lapdogs of the ANC, and they're just protecting their jobs. Once you start going down that road. But I think really if you want to see a practical answer for your question, it really is the VAT issue. So we're
Yeah.
in government, we were in government, and the ANC decided without consulting its GNU partners, and that's really important to say this. They didn't even consult us because let's face it, Sid, they are still a little bit used to just doing whatever they want and not really consulting on the matter. So they decided, yes, they're going to raise VAT. Um, and we just said, over our dead bodies, you will not raise VAT. So it was a tough call because now you stand up publicly against your coalition partner, which we did. And we and basically it came to sort of standoff, where we said we will not support the budget as presented to us in Parliament if you present us a budget that's got a VAT increase in it. And then that's exactly what happened. We blocked the budget from going through the first time. Then the ANC had to run around and collect some other parties outside of the GNU to try and get the budget through. But as you know, at the end of the day, two things happened. VAT wasn't increased, and we established a better working relationship with the ANC. Now, in this medium-term budget, there were no issues. Why? Because they consulted us, and we sat and we talked about it together, and the GNU, as a collective, made a decision over the budget, not just the ANC on its own. And that really is the test, and that is how we will hold ourselves accountable. As long as we can work with the ANC. And look, obviously, we're not going to agree with everything, BE being
Yeah.
one of the best examples. But you don't leave an opportunity to improve South Africa, to rescue South Africa, to improve the lives of people, just because there's one thing which you and your coalition partner doesn't agree with. What you rather do, what we do, is we take the ministries we've been given, we show people that where we are in Minister of Home Affairs or Minister of Public Works or Minister of Education, that we deliver better than any other minister. True to DA culture, true to the brand of our party. We deliver. We don't just talk. We improve and we deliver. And if we do that, then hopefully we will receive a stronger mandate, more votes from voters in 2029. Because the more votes we have, the stronger our mandate is in a coalition government, and the more we can actually influence the bigger things like BEE, which we at this stage don't have control over.
Awesome. All I got to say that thanks so much for your time, Jan, and I hope to catch up with you once again in the future.
Sid, you can invite me anytime. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and I really hope you have a wonderful day, and as well as the people watching at home.
Thanks.